welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. We are back again for episode number 113. I'm your host tonight, and my name is Shorty, and I have a couple of beans on the line with me. So tonight we have Chewy. How's it going, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Pretty good. And Cracker is back again. How's it going, Cracker?
I am. I'm very well, thanks, mate.
It's like 3 weeks in a row. What's going on? I mean, that's pretty normal for you.
I was going to say, it's like I'm here most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm furiously Googling to see if there's been a banned and restricted announcement. But,
Yes.
I mean, we can talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Do we have one, do we? I don't know. It's not in our show notes.
No, there was, let's just jump right into it. There was no changes to Commander this week. There was a meeting from the rules committee and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, no bans. So
I did see on that topic,
no announcement.
The Challenger decks, there was a bit of a kerfuffle because
the
mono white Challenger decks have got Faceless Haven, and Faceless Haven's banned. But apparently, if you play the exact 75 that comes in the Challenger deck, Faceless Haven's still legal, but you can't play an optimized deck list. So Faceless Haven is still banned, is the the long and the short of it. So
yeah, I'm sure this happened a few years ago. I couldn't remember exactly when, but I'm sure they did some Challenger decks. It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and the exact same thing happened. They released the lists, and then there was a banning.
I think it happened after the Challenger decks were already released, where this is kind of happening before they're out. Yeah, it's definitely familiar, but I think they've been out for a little while.
I'm sure they did they did the same rule, though. Like they said, yep,
they did it with Stoneforge, that was banned in Standard.
Oh, really?
A very long time ago. Yeah. So there was exactly exactly this. There was the like Challenger decks, whatever they call them in, but it had Stoneforge in it, and you could only play that package, like that 75 that you could buy as a precon, and then otherwise it was banned. So exactly the same scenario.
Yeah, okay. I guess
apparently
they kind of
GT was too good.
Yeah, they sort of have to do that. Like if they're selling these Challenger decks as, you know, go to your local store. Oh, I want to play Magic. Okay, here, sweet. You can buy these like intro decks that you can just take and play straight away. You can't sell those products and tell people, okay, yep, buy this product. But by the way, we've just got to take 3 copies of a card out of there, and you're just going to have to buy something else to put in their place because they're banned. That's not going to go down too well. So yeah, not surprised to see them allow that, even though it is super weird. And are the Challenger decks getting released on Arena? Did I see that as well?
Oh, I didn't see that, but maybe. Is that just like a cheap way to get wild cards? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it might be something that people are interested in if there's value in them. But
yeah, like I bought them a few years ago when it came. There was like the red one that had like Runaway Steamkins and that sort of stuff in it.
That's what I did before we played it at the PTQ.
Value.
Yeah. And it's like, well, it is the best value for me to get those cards.
Yeah, to get most of the deck.
Yeah, well, the only other way to get better value on getting those cards would be to buy the singles individually through Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar.
Oh, look at that.
So,
off you go. Keep going.
Yeah, Josh and Pat's are a Facebook auction group, if you didn't know, and you are looking to buy some physical Magic cards to take to your F&M. Go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au. That'll take you straight to their page. They have nightly auctions, like over 100 cards go up every single night. Premium auctions on the weekends. You can get tokens for winning, and they'll send you some cool, Not the Thread or Zombie or Angel tokens. And they also have the Win It Now auctions that go up nightly, where it's a first in, first served scenario, and you can get some great deals there. And they look after us for all of our tournament series, which has kicked off for the year. We'll talk about that. And all the way up to our Envy at the end of the year. So check out jpmtgbazaar.com.au. And when you do win, please, please, please tell them that the beans sent you.
Very good. That was like almost sounded like we planned it. Let's just
go on this
pretty good
segue, wasn't it?
Rambling topic and then just lead that into talking about our sponsor.
Can I finish the rambling topic? Because I found the actual Challenger deck info. So the answer is no. You can't play those. You can't play Faceless Haven on Arena or Magic Online because you can't get them on there. So there's no option to buy Challenger decks in either of those platforms.
Okay.
So it's only paper.
Okay, there you go.
Fair enough.
Cool.
And maybe Wizards went paper standard is not super popular, and
whatever we can do to get people to play it.
Too many people.
They would have had to order the print run of these ages
Yeah.
ago, a long time ago, before they knew bands were coming. So that's why that would happen.
This is totally to
until
try
lunchtime on a Monday. So that's how it goes, isn't it?
I mean, they haven't thrown the darts yet, man.
That's funny.
So true. All right. Well, we're like over 5 minutes in, and we're completely off the rails. So let's sort of get back
on topic.
Yeah, sort of get back onto
I wasn't here last week, so I've got a full week of tangents to catch up on. So.
Yes.
2 weeks of tangents in one episode.
Let's go.
All right, I'm just going to close this tab with the show notes because we're just not going to bother with that tonight.
Crack knuckles, let's go. But yeah, as I mentioned when I was talking about Josh and Pat's, that we kicked off our tournament series. I was playing cricket, so I couldn't play in the event, but we had some historic action last weekend. Yeah,
we did. Yep, good event to kick off the start of the 2022 tournament series. We did at one stage, I think we're up to like 26 people registered, which was very nice. It would have been our highest event to date. It was a one-day event. But yeah, people playing cricket and other random last-minute things meant we had a few people pull out. So we ended up with 20, which is still a very good number for these one-day events. We're very happy with that. And yeah, played through 5 rounds of historic. So it was good fun. I streamed the whole day and yeah, got to watch my subpar playing of a deck that I haven't played for probably over a year, as well as a few other people playing their decks much better than me. I ended up with a 2-3 record. I think looking back on it, I probably could have quite easily ended up with a 4-1 record. There was, if you haven't seen the clip, you want to go and watch the end of the stream, the final match that I played, and me timing out with lethal in my hand. That was pretty brutal, but yeah.
Is that just you were distracted from streaming? Or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
No, so I played Team Adventures. I did my usual, as Chewy always jokes, did my last minute audible into a new deck. And
it's not a joke if it's a true observation. It's actual, at this point, it's science, right? Cracker, does Shorty always audible last minute?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
It's now been peer reviewed.
Majority of time.
It is actual science. Yeah, yes, peer review done.
The vast majority of the time.
Yes. There's usually a good reason for it, and my reasoning this time,
with a high confidence rate.
Yeah, my reasoning this time was I wanted to play something different and fun because I was going to be streaming the whole thing. So
that's a valid reason. There's no problems there. But it's just it's funny that it happens consistently. I remember the last nationals we drove up talking about playing Blue White God Pharaoh's Gift, and then it was at like 1 a.m. or something. We submitted our deck lists. And I was waiting the whole time, like the whole drive up, the whole time we were like posting our deck list, like filling out the PDF. I'm like, he's gonna change. He's gonna go to mono red. He's gonna do it. And you didn't. I was very surprised.
I probably should have.
Yeah, mono red was pretty busted.
It didn't do that well in the standard portion of that event. So yeah, it pays to change last minute. Forget all your practice and all that time and effort that you've put in with a deck. Just audible last minute to something you've got no experience with, and you're guaranteed to enjoy your day.
Go wrong? That's right.
But yeah, I was planning on playing Phoenix, as we'd spoken about plenty of times. It's obviously one of the best decks in Historic at the moment, and a deck that I'm pretty happy to be playing. But I spent a couple of nights just sort of looking at a few different lists and seeing if there's anything cool out there to play for the stream, and came across someone had been running Teamer Adventures, which is a deck I really enjoyed playing in Standard. I don't know how many people enjoyed playing against it, but it was good fun to play, and it's almost exactly the same deck in Historic as it was in Standard. The main deck is virtually just all the Eldraine adventure cards, and you just
get a few Lucky Clover and stuff.
Yeah, it's all Lucky Clover, Edgewall Innkeeper, like everything. It's the full thing because you
just have a better mana
none of those
base,
cards
right?
are banned. Yeah, I mean in Standard they banned Lucky Clover and Escape to the Wilds, so you've got both of those cards, and then you just get a better mana base. So and then a bunch of really cool sideboard bullets to go and get with your Fae of Wishes. So yeah, it was good. Did quite well. Like the deck is super powerful. and yeah, just completely misplayed a few games that cost me losses. For those who've played the Team of Adventure deck before, there's always just a million lines that you don't think about, and I could have quite easily won a few games a few turns earlier if I had have just thought, oh, hang on, if I wish for this, I get 2 wishes and I can get this card, and then I just win, or I win next turn sort of thing, and just sort of not seeing those lines. And then timing out at the end in that last game, it was similar scenario. It's like, if I had done this last turn, which I could have done last turn, I would have won. Instead, I'm like madly rushing around trying to make decisions and then running out of time and losing because of that. So definitely could have had a much improved record, but I had a really fun time as well. And we had a pretty diverse metagame. We had, a few of the Scurry Oak combo decks, which we spoke about the last time we talked about Historic, the green-white company with the sort of infinite life and infinite tokens, that sort of thing. A few Phoenix decks. But yeah, then just a bunch of other random stuff. A few variations on Gruul, some Goblins, some like Rakdos Arcanist. I cannot say those 2 words together. It's really hard to say.
Aren't we lucky that Blackcleave Cliffs isn't in the yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. We had an Enchantress deck, Chewy, the green Enchantress deck from
I love the look of that deck. I'm not sure how good it is.
Yeah.
But it's very cool.
It was okay.
Yeah.
And then Cat Gamer running the blue-white Auras deck that they've been piloting for quite a while, I believe. We actually got to see them on stream, which was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
But it was taken down in the end by Sarah's Soldiers, who's played in a couple of our events and done, I think played in a couple of leagues. But yeah, got the straight win, the 5-0. And they
all
were playing
those sweet envy points. Ooh.
Yeah. So there'll be 4 envy points for Sarah's Soldiers. Good start to the season. But yeah, they were playing Gruul Shamans, as we determined on stream. That is how you pronounce it. It's not shamans. We say shamans. So, make sure you say it right.
Shaman.
Mate, Shorty. What are you talking about?
Come on, you guys are meant to back me up so all our international listeners think that that's how we say it.
Is it Castle Vantris or Castle Vantris?
It's whichever one comes out of my mouth when I say it.
Oh, okay.
Varies every time.
Is it Ikoria or Ikoria? So Gruul Shamans.
Yes. Shamans, yes.
Look, there's no shaman in calling it shaman.
Oh.
And then another Gruul deck finished second.
Yeah, yep. So we had a good old Rolling Royce. This bloke is unbelievable. He was sitting at 4-0 at one point and playing Gruul aggro. I think he's played Gruul aggro in every format for the last year for our Beans events, and yeah, ending up in second again. Not surprised to see him there. And then running Pineapple in their very first Beans event. Came in third, running the Izzet Phoenix, the bin chickens. So,
congrats!
Good diverse top standing there. And
so that is our leaderboard for our Envy as of event 1, right there.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. So no, it was good fun. Good turnout. Lots of people viewing on the stream. Gave away a few collector's boosters, and kicked the tournament series off in a good fashion. So. I certainly enjoyed it, and hopefully the next one-day event we play or we run, you guys can come and play that.
Yeah, hopefully. But the next event is a league, and it is just after Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Not Destiny, Dynasty comes out. I'm just like
or is it
drive-by trolling
Dynasty?
You're going to die nasty, yeah. So that comes out very shortly.
I think it literally comes out like tonight or tomorrow night.
On Arena, yeah.
On Arena,
and then on the actual event will kick off for us on the 25th, I believe.
Yep.
Our league kicks off. So it's a little while to, acquire some of the new cards and decide on a deck before we kick off our league, which is good. And plenty of time to play more limited as well, just to build up that collection just quietly is a little hot tip for you. But yeah, so do you think Kamigawa's going to shake up Standard? Because we've seen sets sort of come and go recently without making too much of an impact. And I know people are excited about the flavour and the imagery and stuff in Kamigawa, but are there actually good Magic cards that are going to make people remember that Standard is even a format anymore? What do you guys think?
I hope so, man. Look, I think so. I mean, look, we're still coming off the back of a bunch of very powerful sets, which makes it really difficult for things to break in. But it certainly feels like there are a number of tools in here that will hopefully either potentially spawn whole new archetypes or, certainly supplement existing ones. We talked about all of the sagas. I just can't see how some of those don't find homes. They just seem like they're too versatile with all the stuff they can do. And there's a lot of equipment stuff, man. And a lot of vehicles, which I think is really interesting. There's kind of like, we've had one or two random kind of vehicles in a lot of sets now, but this feels like the first time you could like do the vehicle archetype almost. Now, I don't know that that's good enough, but there's a lot of pieces here. There's a lot more of, like cruise vehicles as though it had power 2 greater and stuff like that for like a 1/1. So for a 1-drop. So there's a lot of things there that I think are worth exploring.
Yeah,
which
definitely
hasn't been true for the last couple of sets. It's kind of felt like you just picked the top 3 mythics and 2 rares and moved on. But it feels like Kamigawa might be a little deeper, kind of down into the, uncommon and even common slots in some spots, which is great.
So hard agree. And I've spent a little bit of time this week kind of not brewing to the point that I've, got a deck list to share, but definitely there's some archetypes that I'm really looking forward to exploring. And vehicles is definitely one of those. We've had a vehicle do a lot of really good work in Standard for a little while now in a Seeker's Chariot, in the Catmobile or the Cadillac or whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of vehicles in blue and white in the Kamigawa set. And I think there's definitely an option for a blue-white splashing Catmobile deck that could be like a mid-range grindy creature deck effectively. So there's Disruption Protocol which is a counterspell, which is if you tap an artifact, it's actual counterspell, otherwise it's 3 mana 1. That's a pretty good way to protect you guys. There's also Spell Pierce. There's some half decent white removal. There's the Hotshot Mechanic, who you were referring to before as a great way to crew some vehicles. And then it's probably a little bit cute, but everybody's got a Kamigawa bucket list item of making a Mech Titan using Mech Titan Core to exile a whole bunch of artifacts and bring them back as a
Voltron.
To full on Voltron, right? Everybody who was, born in the 80s, or before knows who Voltron is. If you don't know who Voltron is, pause the cast now, Google Voltron, and it's now 4 hours later, you've watched a bunch of Voltron and it's awesome. Now you know what we're talking about. And, Mech Titan Core, 2 mana for a 2/4 vehicle with crew 2 is playable, right? You can just play that in your vehicles deck. It's good enough. But then it's got the instant speed ability to exile it and 4 other artifacts and make a 10/10. And I think that maybe it's a 1 or a 2 of, but this is something that you'll include in your deck, particularly because you've got Catmobile, right? So if you make your Mech Titan and you exile a bunch of artifacts and you just happen to have a Seeker's Chariot on the battlefield, you use your Mech Titan to crew the Cadillac and attack, and you make another copy of that 10/10. You legend rule away the first one. It leaves the battlefield and you get all of your other exiled artifacts back. And then you have a shiny new 10/10 Mech Titan with effectively no drawback. That's really, really powerful. It may be a few too many hoops. It may be a few too many, cuteness points sort of thing, but it feels pretty similar to what people were doing with Ren and 7 and things like that. So, and maybe the deck plays Ren and 7 as well. And yeah, it seems like a really powerful interaction, and it's got counter magic to back it up. It just seems pretty gas. What do you guys reckon? Is am I just dreaming and my inner Timmy's getting the best of me, or do you think this is actually a thing?
Probably rather just attack with the hasty 10-10.
But then you don't have any of your stuff back.
Well, and then it dies and I get my stuff back. But then I'm attacking with a 10-10, so...
That's got vigilance and lifelink and whatever.
Yeah. I like the idea of, cloning it. Like, that seems really sweet.
And Catmobile's on theme to clone it, right? Like it doesn't
the problem is that you have to wait till you've attacked. So you don't get to attack with it that turn when you have made it. Is the only downside I can see.
Well, you don't have to do it that turn. You can look at the game situation and go, I'll just attack with my 10-10, right? But, you've got the option, and it's pretty cool. And if you're making tokens anyway to crew your things, and there's the blue-white guy who, whenever you crew a vehicle, makes a 1/1 or something like that as well. So there's definitely tokens that happen, and just Catmobile's splashable and worthy of a splash if you're looking at vehicle payoffs as well. So it's a pretty much a no-brainer. If you're playing a vehicle deck, I think you can stretch your mana base to include the color.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, it still has to be dethroned as the best vehicle, right? Like, I think you'll struggle. I don't think we've got anything that powerful in this set that,
not
produces
obviously
so much, not produces so much cardboard all in one go.
Yeah. Nothing on pure rate. We might have a better vehicle that we just haven't discovered how good it is just yet, but it's definitely out there. Touching just on vehicles and equipment in Limited, I'm glad that they've, at first, having both in the same block made me quite nervous for Limited, where it's like, I've got all these equipment cards and I've got all of these vehicles, but because of all of my commons and uncommons of those cards, I don't have many creatures. Timing it with equipment that are also creatures actually mitigates that. That's quite a good piece of set design, I think, and it caters to the Limited player. So, like, they get a tick of approval there from Limited old me from here. But yeah, what do you think, Shorty? Did you ever play vehicles in Standard?
The Mardu vehicles? No, I didn't play that at that time, but it was the best deck to be playing at that time. There were, we did have Smuggler's Copter and Heart of Kiran, which were very, very good vehicles. I think the big thing with the vehicles in this set is that they're mostly coloured, which the sort of previously vehicles have mostly been just generic colour costs, like your super powerful ones, your Smuggler's Copter and Heart of Kiran, that sort of thing. But I think in this set they've sort of gone, okay, well, rather than making them all generic costs, we can add colours, and then that means we can push the power a little bit more. So I think we will see some strong ones there. One thing that I'm like, it's just like, yep, this is total power creep. The hotshot mechanic that you mentioned, Chewy. Do you remember Savannah Lions? that was a rare. It was a single white for a 2/1 with just,
and it was like the best white one drop ever.
Oh yeah. I remember Jen playing her Boros or Weenie decks, and like Savannah Lions is like a $10 card, and now we've got an uncommon that's the same, but also has an extra ability. Where
absolutely.
It crews vehicles with power 2.
Hotshot mechanic can crew a Seeker's Chariot on its own.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's for 1 white mana, and it's so you get to attack for 6 instead of 4, right? With your Catmobile.
And often that's one of the ways that you control the Seeker's Chariot is, they play the Seeker's Chariot, they get the cats, and then if you can kill those cats before they can start crewing and getting that extra value, then, you're doing all right. And then it takes a bit sometimes for them to recoup 4 power to be able to recrew it. But if you've got a card like Hotshot Mechanic, it's like, oh, sweet, I top decked this 1 mana 2/1 that would normally be basically useless, but I can just play it to crew my Seeker's Chariot straight away, and off I go. So, yeah, I think that pairing's going to be quite strong together.
There's one more vehicle that looks really strong to me, which is kind of getting back to what you were saying, Shorty. It's called Reckoner Bankbuster, and it's actually 2 generic mana for a 4/4, and it's got a crew of 3. So it's also got a bunch of other text. It says, it enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it. Tap 2, tap it, remove a charge counter from Reckoner Bankbuster, draw a card. And then if there are no charge counters on Reckon a Bank Buster, then create a treasure token and a 1/1 pilot with this creature cruise vehicles as though it were power 2 greater.
I like that card in a control deck.
I like it in a beatdown deck.
So, well, it fits in both, right?
It's a 2-mana 4/4.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's a 2-mana 4/4 that beats down, but it's also a card draw spell for your control deck to, hold up counter magic and get cards when you need to, and then when you're ready to take over the game, it's your win condition. But it also... What was
the artifact that we had recently? The 2-mana thing that you could, tap it, add a counter, you scry...
Treasure Map.
No, there's Treasure Map. There's one after that. Treasure Map was the one in Ixalan. There's one... I can't remember what it's called. I know people have been talking about it, but it's along those lines. It was a card that's played in control, and it just gets you that little bit of value over the period of a few turns, and then when you put the last counter on it, you sacrifice it, and you gain 4 life. And
that one, the Mazemind Tome.
Mazemind Tome, that's the one.
Yeah,
good job. We got there in the end. Yeah, similar to that, but can also be played in an aggro deck if you want to. The Crew 3 is a bit rough, but you do get the creature to crew it. But you've also get the 1-drop. So if you play it with that other one we were just talking about, that cruise is a 4-power thing. So you play that on turn 1, this on turn 2.
That one, great. That card cracker just might be good enough to be played in Eldrazi Tron in Modern, because the Matter Reshaper crews it very easily, and so do all the other Eldrazi.
Drawing cards.
Yeah, and drawing cards when you've got Tron seems good. That might, because Mazemind Tome is certainly at least played as as a Karn wish target in the sideboard. So maybe this just straight replaces it because it not only draws cards, but it can also attack. So it's effectively 2 sideboard slots in 1 card, because it can play double duty. So that's pretty good.
Nice.
I'm looking for a foil. Anyone? There you go. And just the last one on this one, I really like Mobilizer Mech as a bit of a just solid card to make this potential archetype viable. It's 1 and a blue for a 3/4 flying vehicle with crew 3. And whenever Mobilizer Mech becomes crewed, up to 1 target vehicle you control becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So you can crew 3 this, make it a 3/4 flyer, and then the other vehicle that you got lying around that you might not have a creature to be able to crew it with can attack as well. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 as far as your crewing goes. And a 2-mana 3/4 flyer is not too shabby. So I like the idea of this card.
Yeah, it seems really good.
Especially, the pilot mechanic. Well, it's not really a mechanic, it's just a keyword, I guess.
Keyword, yeah.
Is very cool and obviously very thematic. You would expect that a pilot would be able to crew a vehicle a lot better than a random creature. So works really well and just allows those small creatures that are good in the early game and not so good in the late game to then have some sort of relevance later on.
They're just useful, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And you could always go red-white aggressive and play Magda and then just get treasure value and stuff as well. Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways you could take this, I think, which is nice because, like I said before, it feels like there's kind of the setup to have lots of different options inside the same thing rather than just we play a Seeker's Chariot and green decks and it's not like a vehicle deck, it's just a green deck. So yeah, sweet. Looking forward to seeing how that pans out.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. They've tried to make tribal a thing over recent sets and it's just boring, right? They're very linear. And it's just I played my thing, I played my lord, I played my payoff, and I either won or I didn't. And we saw that with vampires and merfolk and a bunch of, goblins and things in recent sets. And it gets stale quite quickly. But being able to introduce themes and still have viable decks is definitely something that would keep people interested. So whether it works or not, only time is going to tell, but I appreciate them trying to, bring that thematic things rather than just playing all of the best rares and mythics and it's on curve and it feels like a deck, actually playing something that has a little bit more depth to it and a bit of fluff to it, is good and great for new players as well to bring them in. So, I like that a lot.
Yeah, the balance is to to design cards and make cards that can go in various decks, and those decks are different types of decks, like different play styles. And
that's really hard to do, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But if you can get a format to that spot where it's like, okay, here's a broad spectrum of good, strong playable cards, and you can build them in whatever way suits your play style or whatever your preference is for how you want to play, or it can fit in with these cards that you already own, because it's sort of a generically good card, but without being too oppressive, where it's like, okay, this card just slots into every single deck and I'm just sick of seeing that card. So I don't know how you balance that. I'm not a game designer, so no way I'm going to come up with the solution for that. But every now and then they do seem to hit that, and you do have that sort of broad spectrum. So yeah,
I appreciate them trying, and when they do hit the mark, it is definitely worth it. Unfortunately, when it doesn't hit the mark, it can get very stale very quickly. Cracker, you mentioned red-white aggressive decks, and that was one of the other things that I've kind of been spitballing in my head to try to figure out if there's an option. We've seen a lot of good mono red decks. We've seen recently a lot of very good mono white decks. There was a Knights deck, a Mardu Knights deck a few sets ago. There was a red-white Warriors deck early on in the Kaldheim set. And I'm just wondering, because a lot of the Samurai are also Warriors, there might now be the critical mass that means that, the aggro deck in the format is some kind of red-white equipment-based warrior synergy deck, because we've still got all of the warrior payoffs, and we've still got all of the equipment payoffs with Akiri and such, and there's some decent equipment floating around both in this set, in the Kamigawa, and lying around standard, sitting there in your yet-to-be-crafted copies of Uncommons. And things like, Usher of the Fallen and Fireblade Charger and the other good red and white cards can be bolstered by Reinforced Ronin and old mate Goro Goro. Having been Goro Goro, I expect him to have 8 arms, because he's like, there's so many more Goros. But it's being able to give you, I think Scott talked about this guy on the cast last week when I was listening to it. Like 2-mana 2/2, you can, give all of your dudes haste, and then you've got this top end which, mono red or aggressive strategies in general can run out of gas. And, one of the best mono red decks we've seen in recent years played, Steamkin and then the stupid broken 4-mana enchantment and just let you go nuts. And that pushed it over the edge. This isn't on that power level, but being able to just pump out 5/5s is because you've got, an equipped creature attacking, can certainly win games. And I think this guy's more than just a card you want to P1 in draft. I think he's pushed enough that there might be a home for him in some kind of aggressive strategy. And I think, given that he's a samurai, it just might be good enough to find, that critical mass point where, the red-white aggressive deck can be a creature warriors enchantment deck that happens to play a few samurai. So I don't know. It needs a lot of tweaking, but the best way to modify a creature, I think, is to play equipment or the name eludes me, the 2-mana 1/1 that puts a counter on stuff at the beginning of your combat step that they alchemy to be end step.
Luminarch Aspirant.
Yeah, so there's some very, very efficient ways to get a modified creature and cards that you would be playing anyway. Like, you're not diminishing the power level of your cards, individual card value to meet that modified state. If you're playing a red if you're playing a white aggressive deck in any form, you're going to be playing the Luminarch Aspirant anyway. So you're going to see additional payoffs rather than just making your dudes big. So I think it's, there's something there, something to get brewing, and might be just a good best of one deck to play on your phone while you're sitting on your kid's floor waiting for them to go to sleep. So but I'm not calling it the best deck in standard at all, but I think it might be a good way to grind through the ladder a little bit.
I'm always hopeful for mono red to come back into prominence and be a deck that we can actually play and play it in best of 3 if we need to as well. I'm still not sold on it. I think there's enough strong mid-range decks and a lot of like Meat Hook Massacre decks floating around, and mono red decks just can't deal with that. The red-white decks may be able to, though, and that's where, if you can find enough of those synergies and enough of a strong enough end game, and like you said, Chewy, the mono red decks we've had in the past, we had the Steamkin Frenzy decks. It had a big end game, and then after that we had how have I completely forgotten? Embercleave. Wow, I've completely forgotten the name of it. That's that card that you cast and people just concede straight away. You had that to...
What? Ruin Crab? What?
to finish games for you.
Yep.
So, if we can find enough synergies and cards that are going to let you play into the long game in the red-white aggressive decks, then we may get there. And you've put on the show notes here, Chewy, that the deck would probably play main deck of Braid, which I 100% agree with. I think there's going to be a lot of artifacts or, vehicles or equipment, that sort of thing floating around. And a Braid was printed into Crimson Vow, so it's already in standard. If you don't know what a Braid is, it's a 1 and a red for an instant, deals 3 damage to a target creature, or you can destroy an artifact. So it's what the red decks want anyway, because you can sort of clear those blockers out of the way, and sometimes you go up substantially on mana when you can actually take out a big artifact with that. I got to kill a... oh man, why am I so bad with card names? What's the... Torrential Gearhulk. On the weekend.
Oh yeah,
with an Abrade that was quite nice. So
very good.
There's definitely like the like disruptive white creature spells as well. So there's like Spellbinder and what's the one? Skyclave Apparition still kicking around, and you could also top out at Shurden of the Scalds. Or Scalds, if we're
playing red and white, I think
if we're playing red white,
you definitely
Scalds,
want a couple of those.
Scalds, yeah. But I mean, you're talking about being modified creatures. Well, that gives you a bunch of modified creatures, right? Whenever you cast a spell, this turn put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Card advantage and synergy in one card is pretty gas.
So good way to kind of refill. So I definitely think that you can play those as you curve toppers and just go like a full wide beatdown strategy. So feels like the tools are there for this one now.
Yeah, it's just finding is it good in the metagame because Meat Hook Massacre is a thing, and people play like Damn and things like that. But
sure.
I think it's there, and I guess if you're building a deck and you can't beat that red white deck, then maybe you need to go back to the drawing board a little. So I think it'll be the type of deck, just like the role that Mono Red's played in the past, where it keeps everybody else honest and can get under some of the more greedy, bigger, slower decks. So it's a good way to get some W's. So, you mentioned synergy, Cracker.
Mm-hmm.
I love some synergy, and there's a lot of synergy available in blue and black at the moment. And when I think Kamigawa, I think Soul Shift. No, sorry, I think ninjas. That's, one of the iconic things, Ninja of the Deep Hours and Ink Eyes, certainly, Umezawa's Jitte, all very ninja-themed things that I have played a lot of over the years. And, we've talked about, the vehicles deck and the red-white deck here kind of being potentials. I feel like a blue-black Rogues Ninjutsu deck almost builds itself a little bit, the core. It seems like less of a leap to get to the final deck lists. And I'm really excited about this because there are so many good cards that have, ninjutsu as an ability. And there's some cards lying around in standard that a lot of people may have forgotten about. But when you think about them in the context of this deck or this potential deck, at least I'm getting excited. And I know you both love a ninja, and I know Cracker you love a rogue. So let's just go through a few of these cards and see if we can start formulating a bit of a deck. So I mentioned Ninja of the Deep Hours. Moon Circuit Hacker is kind of like, it's distant relative. So it's 1 and a blue for a 2/1 with ninjutsu 1. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card, unless Moon-Circuit Hacker enters the battlefield this turn. So the turn that you ninjutsu it in, you just draw a card, and then it loots from there on. Still great. Very good Magic card. Loot away those excess lands, find those answers. Happy with that.
Single blue mana on that ninjutsu is just...
It's very, very sweet.
Huge.
Exactly. Yeah. There's Silver Fur Master. Master Splinter, because we do have a Ninja Turtle. So blue-black for 2/2.
No. It's a Turtle Ninja.
Turtle Ninja.
It's not a Ninja Turtle.
Legally distinct.
Do Hasbro own the Ninja Turtles?
Don't think so.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. So Silver Fur Master, blue-black for 2/2. Also ninjutsu, blue-black. Ninjutsu abilities cost 1 less to activate. So there are some with colorless mana in them, so that's pretty good. But other ninja and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1. So there's a Lord. So you could play this guy for his ninjutsu cost, or you could just play him as a 2-mana 2/2 that pumps the rest of your team. So a lot of value there. I'm just going to run through a few cards here. Hopefully you guys are getting excited as I am, but
hang on. Before you move from Silver Fur Master, one thing. Despite the fact that it's Master Splinter, it's actually not legendary, and the abilities do stack.
Exactly.
So if you've got multiples, you get +2/+2, +3/+3, and your ninjutsu abilities will decrease by 1 for each copy of Silver Fur Master you have in
one
play.
generic.
So
yeah, that's so. Yeah. So doing Lord things quite well in that sense. So and 2-mana 2/2 Lords have historically been pretty good in Magic's history. A card that is a good enabler for this deck is Thousand-Faced Shadow. So it's a 1-mana 1/1 flyer. And when it enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of target attacking creature. The token enters tapped and attacking. So what I like about this card is it's an enabler to play on turn 1. It's a 1-mana 1/1 flyer that you can turn into other ninjas, like the Moon-Circuit Hacker, and draw a card. But then that obviously returns the Thousand-Faced Shadow to your hand, so you can ninjutsu it in a later turn for 4 and copy something else, maybe your Lord, or maybe to draw a card off your Hacker. And it plays double duty here as the cheap creature to enable ninjutsu, as well as being a really good ninja in its own right. And I think that's pretty gas, in all honesty. I think that's a thing that this deck needs to be able to function. And there's also Network Disruptor, which is a rogue, so it still gets pumped off your rat. It's a 1-mana blue for a 1/1 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, tap target permanent. So again, great thing to cast on turn 1 to enable all your ninjas. It's a cheap, evasive creature, but when you've returned it to your hand or you draw it later on, it taps a permanent, taps down a blocker, which might let your existing ninjas get in for an extra attack and an extra trigger. And I think these two, as the 8 1-drops that this deck would play, are pretty good. They both get pumped off your Lord. They're both evasive, and they both are more than just a flying man. So I think they're pretty gas. And then, there's a lot here, right? So, Suspicious Stowaway is a werewolf rogue from what set is that from? Sorry, from Midnight Hunt. Yeah, it can't be blocked, and when it loots when it hits, which is good. So it's an unblockable thing. It's a good enabler, and the back side of it, the green side of it, is just straight draw a card, which is also pretty good. I think it's just a good enabler in the deck. And the one that I went a bit deep, and I found something out of Forgotten Realms. Cridle of Baldur's Gate is a rogue, and it's blue-black for a 1/3. And he's got an ability which is kind of a little bit value, but not super exciting, which is when he deals combat damage to a player, that player loses a life, mills a card, you gain a life and scry 1. Scry 1's pretty good, but it's also got whenever you attack, not with Cridle, but whenever you attack, you may pay 2. If you do, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So if you you've got some ninja action. It's a good finisher. So you'd probably play, a small number of Krydle in the deck just to force through those last few points of damage and get the those ninjutsu triggers. And yeah, I think this deck is pretty good. And, there's Spell Pierce and other things to protect your ninjas. You can play Duress or Go Blank to help control your opponent's hands. There's, all of the standard black removal spells. You can play Fading Hope to bounce a blocker to get your ninjas in. I think this is just going to be a deck that exists. And, is there a big finisher like we had with Zarathan with Rogues? There's a 5/5, but it doesn't have a impactful ability. But I think this deck will exist and probably be pretty good. Essence Capture protects your Rogues, makes them bigger. That aggro disruptive archetype like the Rogues deck or the mono blue tempo deck that we've seen in the past, that quote unquote fish style deck, I think it's here.
I found a couple of cards if you're wanting to play that style deck as well. There's You Come to a River, which is one of the D&D cards so 1 and a blue for an instant, and it's one of those choose one. You can return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, or target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. So
perfect.
Little bit of utility there. And then we've also got the new Planeswalker that's in this set, Kaito, who's only 3 mana, one blue black for 3 loyalty, phases out when he comes in, the turn he comes in, but his -2 is create a 1/1 blue ninja creature token with this creature can't be blocked as well. So just a few extra utility cards can go with that. But this sort of deck seems right up your alley, Cracker. I'm assuming you're pretty keen to play something like this, although your wild cards are probably not going to like you.
Well, maybe. There's actually a lot of commons and uncommons in this that they seem pretty great. So it's nice. There's obviously a few rares, but I think Spell Pierce makes a huge difference to this being a viable archetype. Like that, being able to get rid of like a Meat Hook Massacre to protect all your dudes or something. You so often with these decks need to just buy that extra turn, or, you counter some, Goldspan Dragon or some giant threat with an Essence Capture and you pump your dude. Like those 2 cards in particular being available in this set, I think go a long way in helping. And then, like Chewy said, the access to like the black, either removal spells or disruptive, you go blanks and duresses and things. You can kind of, it feels like we might have the suite of tools we need around this core ninja package to support it, which is really what you need. It was like Drown in the Loch was like the best card in the Rogues deck because it did everything you wanted it to. So, having options that are obviously not quite as good as that, but, giving you some versatility at 1 mana, because these things are all hyper efficient. That's the key thing here, right? It's just being as super efficient with all your mana as you can every turn. I think, it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, I'm excited by this archetype a lot, and I hope it's good. Because, we talked about...
Because I'm going to play it a lot and lose otherwise.
Exactly.
You use all your wild cards and then not be able to play anything.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it doesn't matter. That's what I do, man. I pick a deck and I go with it.
Yeah.
But we talked about the thematic decks just a bit earlier, right? Like, this is absolutely something that's very, very thematic and very cool without being hard tribal. And it's...
Yeah. The problem is that you get stuck. Like, you're not going to get ninjas in another set.
No, but same as what they've done with the samurais, they have sort of future-proofed it that little bit. We spoke about it last week where samurais, most things that trigger off samurais are samurais and warriors. So you've got that benefit of, we had, you always get warriors in sets, and we had like the D&D set where we got a bunch of warriors. They've done the same thing with ninjas. It's ninjas and rogues
and for rogues,
for the same reason. So there's already a bunch of rogues in standard, and then there will be more rogues in future sets. So it doesn't have to be specifically ninjas, which is good. I'm glad they made that choice because it stops it from being such a sort of inbred
parasitic.
Yeah, that's parasitic. Yeah, that's the term I was thinking of. Mechanic where it's just that single set. Should be good to see. I think that's got some potential to be a good deck, but in terms of the rest of Standard, I don't think any of us have really been playing much Standard recently. I've been sort of focused on Historic a bit lately. We'll be turning my attention to Standard now with our next league coming up, so hopefully start playing a bit more. But one thing I just wanted to sort of touch on with this is I listened to the latest episode of MTG Goldfish, and a comment that Richard on the podcast said was like they were talking about similar things, what are you excited to see, that sort of thing. And he basically said, like, it came out this week that this set is the wordiest set ever. There's more text on these cards than any set ever in the history of Magic, which is crazy. And he was saying, like, there is just so much text on the cards. There's 280 cards or somewhere around there, and then there's just so much text on all the cards, and every card does so many different things that it's just overload, and he just can't even process what it is. And I find I'm in the same boat today, and this is one of the reasons why I struggle to try and brew commander decks and things like that. There's just too much that my brain just goes, nah, I can't figure it out. I'm just going to wait for someone else to figure it out, and then I'll have a look and see what the meta's at.
I'm similar, but every now and then something comes along that piques my interest, right? And it's like, and that's the way, if you look at my commander decks, nothing is a pre-con. It's just like, I want to build a deck that plays all the shrines. Yeah. And so I built that, and then they printed more shrines, and then more shrines again. So the deck's kind of evolving, and it's like, they banned my KCI combo in Modern. How can I'll play it in Commander. How do I do that? And that sort of stuff. But, I guess what I put on the show notes this week have been that me trying to process it and going, there's a path here that may be worth following. And there's a whole lot of things I've looked at and gone, that's way too hard. Like this, I'll look at a particular card and go, potentially broken. There's no way in the world I have the bandwidth to break it. I'll let somebody else break it. But I'm at the point where I can identify potential archetypes. So I'm certainly not breaking formats wide open, but I think I'm able to find some playable cards.
The other thing that was interesting, because I read some stuff about that where this is the wordiest set in single-face cards. If you go to double-face cards, it was Midnight Hunt. But the last was either 4 or 5 sets are actually the wordiest sets ever in Magic's history.
Yeah, it's been going up and up.
And they're not getting less, which is interesting. I mean, we talked about...
That's just power creep, right? Is that a symptom of power creep?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the legendary dragons. I'm not going to talk about them here. It's cool that they redid a cycle of them, but like just looking at the white one, man, there's 2 paragraphs of text on a 5-mana 5/4 dragon. It's like they used to just say Flying Vigilance.
It's like a 4th edition blue card that changes the land type, exchange one land type for another. And all. Yeah.
But it's just, it does so many things.
So much.
The game is more complicated than it's ever been, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think this is influenced by Arena, where, triggers are harder to miss and things like that?
Yeah, possibly. It gives them more scope to go, people don't need to remember every single little detail on the card because we can just program it into Arena and that's fine. But I think it's just power creep, as you said before. Like the cards are just getting more and more powerful, and to make them more powerful, you either have to, cut mana, cut costs off of them, which is pretty hard to do in most circumstances, especially when you're already talking about 1-mana creatures and things like that, or you just add more text to them. So it seems to be the way they're going.
In fairness, like a lot of the time, the more text on a card, the more fun it is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot about enjoyment and replayability and versatility, and I think that's the thing we've really talked about the last few years. Really, it's just that everything is a modal card now. Like it's not just charms. Like everything has 2 or 3 different options on it, which is brilliant because it means you have more agency in your games. So like. Yes, it's hard, but once you kind of get your head around it, I think it's actually probably a net good. Maybe they could tone it back a little bit because this set is kind of crazy.
Yep. All right, a couple of other cards we just wanted to mention sort of on the way out. There's a card that I noticed this week. I've been tinkering with a deck in Historic for a while. I've sort of spent a bit of time playing it, and it was one of my options for this weekend, which is a mono-red Storm deck in Historic that uses Bergy, God of Storytelling, and Grinning Ignis, which is a random card that got printed in the Time Spiral Remastered set, I think it was. But basically you can sort of effectively go infinite with a few different cards in the deck and just sort of recast the same Grinning Ignis over and over and over again. And if you've got cards like Hazoret's Monument out. You can, every time you cast it, you can draw a card or discard a card and then draw a card and sort of churn through your deck. And the deck's a lot of fun. Playing it on mobile is extremely hard and you run out of time very quickly. Sometimes you build your storm count to, lethal and then you time out and it passes your turn, which is good fun. But a card, there's a cycle that we didn't talk about last week, which is the Marches, which are all similar in that they're an X spell and then the colour, whatever colour they are. So the one I'm looking at is the red one, March of Reckless Joy, and they all have this same paragraph of text to start with, which is as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of red cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. So it's a bit different to ones we've seen in the past, like the Shoals that we had, where it reduces the cost by the mana value of the card. This is just each red card reduces it by 2, or adds 2 to the X effectively with these sorts of spells. And it's exile the top X cards of your library. You may play up to 2 of those cards until the end of your next turn. So that deck just generates oodles of mana. You've just got, you got Steamkins going off, you got your Grinning Ignis, whatever, and you're just making oodles and oodles of mana, and sometimes you just get stuck and you run out of cards. So being able to go, all right, I've got 30 mana here, I'm just going to exile the top 30 cards in my library.
Just draw your deck, right?
Yeah, and somewhere in there's going to be a, what's it called?
Are you just bane firing people, or?
Yeah, grape shotting people. Yeah. So it's somewhere in there you're going to find a grape shot or 2, and then that's just going to win you the game. So yeah, very, very cool card for that deck. I'm looking forward to putting that in there and just sort of seeing how it goes, because it is a fun deck that I do like to play every now and then. So just an interesting one. I do think that card could actually see some standard play as well, because for similar reasons in a red deck. If we had a red burn deck, it would be quite a good way to sort of find those last couple of burn spells when you've
you could discard the redundant creatures that aren't going to attack for 2 through your opponent's board and turn them into burn spells.
Even just paying mana for it. You don't have to discard cards for it. You can just pay the mana.
Because end of your next turn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yep. So you get the time to play it.
Red and X draw X cards. So
you only get to play 2 of them, but it might be those 2 burn spells that you need just to sort of win the game.
Yeah.
The other one, Cracker, was Lion Sash, which is a card that people have been sort of talking about for Modern. Do you want to read that one out?
I do. Hang on. I just lost it. I know it's 1 and a white for a 1/1 equipment creature. And it has an activated ability. It says, white, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. And equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash.
That's not hard to say at all.
Words. And then Reconfigure 2. We talked about Reconfigure last week. If you didn't hear that episode, go back and listen to it. This seems really good, right? We were talking about this precast. It's kind of like Scavenging Ooze, which is a green all-star in every format, basically. It sees play all the way back to Legacy. This thing gets big really fast and also, can control a graveyard really nicely. So, yeah, I think this thing is great. And we were talking about the fact that particularly if you're looking like Modern, you can Stoneforge Mystic and then go and get it. And
then just play it as a creature. You don't even need to.
Correct, correct. So
you can put this into play as a 1/1 from Stoneforge activated ability as well.
You can put it into play off an Aether Vial.
Yeah.
And then use your mana to do a bunch of exiling and make it big really quick.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, Scavenging Ooze only got the counters when it was exiling a creature card, whereas Lion Sash gets it for any permanent. And especially in a format like Modern, you've got a lot of fetch lands and things like that in graveyard, so there's going to be permanent cards in there pretty quickly for you to exile.
It's a good way to turn off the Delirium.
Yeah, it also... If the cycling decks are particularly good, Scavenging Ooze has always been a real pain to kind of fight through. So this just seems just as good.
Really good.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I think this will see play.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. Yeah. All right, so that's our sort of first look now that we've got the full set of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty previewed. But yeah, it is coming out on Arena this week. Neon Dynasty. Let's go with that one.
Got to have the correct emphasis and the right syllable. Yeah.
But it comes out this week on Arena, so I'm sure we'll start seeing some deck lists, and over the next couple of weeks we might dig in and see how the metagame's looking before we get into our Kamigawa League. Which, just as a reminder, as Chewy said earlier, kicks off on the 25th of Feb. We should be doing a live stream again to put everyone into groups, which will be good fun. So Friday the 25th of Feb. And there's over $500 in cash and prizes for this league. And then, of course, invitational points, the chance to play on stream when we do commentary for the finals, and the winner of the league getting that invitation direct to the 2022 Magic Beans Invitational, which is going to be epic. So get in on that. Looks like we've already got 25-ish people registered, still 2 weeks out, so that's a very good sign. And we look forward to playing you all in that. The last thing we wanted to talk about on the way out the door, Chewy, is our new website. We've been directing people to it for the past few weeks, but we haven't really spoken about it. So do you want to give everyone a rundown of what we've got on there?
Yeah. I've been plugging away over the last few weeks on magicbeanscast.com. So we've got a brand new website. So previously, magicbeanscast.com just directed you to our Podbean, which just had all of our episodes, our library of episodes on there. But we've done a bit of a revamp, and we've got like an actual legit proper grown-up person's website now. So you can see the advertising for our tournament series on there. We'll post the latest episode on there. It's even got some Beans profiles, which are, worth a look. It's also got all the information that you need on our tournament series. So if you've not registered for that, and as Shorty was saying, you want to be part of the invitational, jump onto that. It's got all of the details, including the rules up there. There's a brand new Magic Beans merch store. We've just moving over to Redbubble. Cracker's done a lot of work there. Some super sweet designs. I've put in an order just today, actually, on that. And everything from, the usual suspects right up to, you can get masks and the Magic Beans logo plus the Magic Beans caricature options as well. But something that I'm really excited about is we've got a page dedicated to articles. So my first content creation gig was writing articles for a local store. But what we're doing differently is we are opening this up to the Magic Beans community. So if you're in our Discord and you've always wanted to write an article and you wanted to get it published somewhere, I'm willing to do the editing and get it up there, make sure it's, ready to go, ready for public consumption. But yeah, we're going to have a community contribution page where anybody can jump in, share their thoughts on that, and we'll tweet it out and all the rest of it. And if you've wanted to dip your hand into content creation in that sense and writing articles, you've got some great ideas. I've got one up there at the moment, and it is, you should play more limited, and here's why. So if you want to read that, go to the articles page on magicbeanscast.com. And if you've got some ideas on some articles of your own, let us know. We've now got a place for you to post them. So yeah, head up to magicbeanscast.com, and it's going to be your kind of one-stop shop for all things Magic Beans moving forward. So feeling like we're leveling up a little bit as a group.
Very good.
And thanks to Cracker for some tweaks of my formatting today.
No worries. Yeah, the constant changes will happen. It will evolve as we get our heads wrapped around it and, do a bit more web stuff. It's none of our day jobs, but, it's fun. It's nice to have a little homepage for us. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, somewhere to direct people to, and the epic video that Shorty put up, advertising our tournament series, that's right there, pride of place on the homepage. So if you're like me and you just want to go and look at that every now and then because it's cool, there's a great place to go and do that. And as I said, our latest episode will always be there on the homepage ready to go. So it's a good spot to go and just listen to the podcast if you're streaming on a desktop.
Very good. Okay, so that is going to do us for this week. So the usual wrap up. If you do want to get in on our leagues and events and all the different things we do, or you want to get in contact with us to send us some articles and things like that, the best place to do that is to be in our Discord. So the link for that is always in the show notes. go and click on that link, join our Discord, join our awesome community, and come and say g'day. There is the merch store, which Chewy mentioned before. You can get to that through the website or from the link in the show notes as well. Go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au to support our awesome sponsors that support us, and let them know that the beans sent you when you win an auction. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. All of those places, just search for Magic Beans or Magic Beans Cast, and you should be able to find us there. If you want to find me on Twitter, I am at Peace Inc. Chewy, you are?
At ChewyMTG.
And Cracker?
At JoelHill_.
Very good. So that's it for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.